All right, so we're gonna start this project with some Dollar Tree Hot Wheels tracks, and they come in packs of 2, so you'll wanna get 4 packs of these. We want the narrower side facing up. So I'm going to be kind of placing my tracks out. What we're gonna be doing is we are going to take a small wood dowel, and I'm gonna put a little bit of hot glue around the bottom, and I'm going to push it through one of the holes. All right, so now that this is nice and dry, we're going to add to it. So I'm going to just slide it onto the dowel. So we're gonna keep going around. You'll notice that I'm, depending on what direction I want these tracks to go, I'm kind of alternating back and forth with where I place them. So now that we've placed that, we are going to do another little layer of hot glue. And we're gonna let this take a moment to dry, and then once it's dried, we'll be back to move on to our next step. All right, so now that this has dried, what we're gonna be doing is we are going to be taking and folding our tracks over one by one. All right, so now that we have our tracks where we want them, you may have to move these around to kind of get the shape that you're looking to get. And the reason I didn't do any hot glue on this part is because I really wanted to figure out how I wanted this to look. So you can put some hot glue on the top once you've chosen what formation you want to create. All right, so now that we have everything positioned, all the tracks positioned the way that I want them, we're going to be taking any type of surface you want to add this to, or add this to. I actually had this in stock, but it was from Dollar Tree from a while back, and I'm going to be gluing this to the frame. Okay, so taking our hot glue again, and I'm just going to press and hold that. So once this is all adhered to the frame, we're going to move on to our next step, so we'll be back. Okay, so now that this has been glued entirely and it's had plenty of time to dry, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next step, which is taking foam. I got this foam from Dollar Tree, and what you're gonna do is, you can see right here, I started cutting a little slit in the middle, and what we're gonna do is we are going to, just so you can see what I'm doing on the side, we're gonna be wrapping this essentially around the dowel that's in the center. So you can see right there. We're gonna move on to a fun part, and this involves using flowers from Dollar Tree. So I just grabbed a bunch of different festive flowers, and we're just gonna cut a few of them. This is kind of a little bit harder to see, but essentially we're just gonna be building like a pretty bouquet into this foam block. So we just want to essentially cover the whole thing. Okay, so now you can see my base has been covered with all the flowers that I was using. Now what we're going to do next is we are going to be adding a stem to our pumpkin. So I actually had essentially it was basically the branch that comes with a macrame set. So I actually cut this down, but you could also find like a stick in your backyard. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hot gluing it to the top here. Okay, so now that my stem has been added and it is staying put, we're going to be taking some ribbon that I got from Dollar Tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one end, and then I'm going to take some from the roll, and I'm going to group it here, and I'm going to pinch. I'm going to group it again, making the same size loop. Doing it again. So now we have 3. I'm going to do one more. Now we're going to cut it here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking some hot glue, or if you want to use wire from, or twine, whatever feels good to you, we're going to twist that around. And I kind of want it covering up the branch. So I'm going to hot glue All right, so while that's drying, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next step, which is gonna be adding some leaves. So now what we're gonna do, now that our ribbon has been glued, we're gonna go in and we are going to basically glue down the leaves, just to add a little decorative accent on the top. All right, and so we're just gonna keep going around just to cover the base as much as we can. So we'll be back when we are ready to place this in my home. And there you have it. My Hot Wheels pumpkin centerpiece is complete. I really think it turned out great, and it was super easy to make and very inexpensive, and will make a great centerpiece or just great decor in your home for any of the fall holidays.
To begin my project, I'm going to take this bamboo vanity tray, and then I'm also going to take these plastic Hot Wheel tracks. These are available at Dollar Tree. I am going to be using just the track part. We don't need these blue pieces that are at the top, the connectors, so we can just get rid of those with the packaging. Now these tracks are different on either side. There is a thinner ridge and then there is a thicker ridge on the other side, more room in between. So we're going to be using the side that has more room in between. That's going to be facing out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take these tracks and I'm going to curve them around, and I'm going to add a generous amount of hot glue in the corner of my vanity tray. I'm going to place one end of the track in there, letting it set, and then I'm going to add glue to the opposite corner, and then I'm going to place in the other side of the track there, and I'm going to make sure I hold these until the glue firmly sets. Then I'm going to come in with more hot glue, just building up a nice base around the track so that they're in there nice and stable. Then I'm going to take my other track and I'm going to place it into the other corners, going over top of the first track that I placed. So I'm going to come in with my hot glue again, making sure to add a generous amount so that these tracks stay in place. Once the glue sets, I'm going to come in with these half wood beads. So they have a wood bead round side and then the other side is flat. And I'm going to hot glue these on to the outside of the tracks, starting at the bottom and working my way up. I did stop halfway through adding the beads just so that I could add my wooden top here. This is just a wood round because I didn't want to waste beads underneath where they weren't required. So I glued that on top with some hot glue, and then I took this large wooden bead with a flat bottom and I glued that on top as well. And this is just going to add a nice decorative finish to the top. I continued adding the beads till I got just about underneath the wood top and repeated on the other tracks. Before spray painting my piece, I made sure to remove any of the glue hairs so they don't get stuck in the spray paint. Then I came in with the Zinsser primer and an enamel satin spray paint, and I spray painted the whole piece outside. After it had dried sufficiently, I came in with this black patio paint from Decor and just added a little rustic finish on the sides of my lantern. So I just used a small brush and twirled it down the sides of the lantern just to add a little rustic definition to my lantern so it wasn't so flat. So I just twirled the brush along the top here as well to add that finishing touches. And this is my completed piece here. I added a little wreath in the bottom and a little candle. Now I don't plan on lighting this candle. You cannot light a candle under here because this is plastic and it will completely melt. So if you're just using it for decorative purposes, you can add a real candle, or if you actually want to add a candle that gives off some light, you can use a battery operated candle. So I'm really happy with how this piece turned out, taking some plastic Hot Wheel tracks in the dollar store and making a cute little farmhouse lantern that adds some nice decor to your home. Thank you so much for tuning into Home Talk, and we'll see you on another video.